I am Steven Pruitt, the Wikipedian with over 3 million edits. Ask me anything. I'm Steven Pruitt, Wikipedia username Sarah Mancio Di Nicolao, and I was featured on CBS Saturday Morning a few weeks ago due to the fact that I'm the top editor, by edit count, on the English Wikipedia. Here's my user page. Several people have asked me to do an Ask Me Anything since the piece aired, and I'm happy to acquiesce, but today's really the first time I've had a free block of time to do one. How did you learn about Wikipedia? PS Thank you for all of your edits on Wikipedia. I'm sure you've helped countless people. It started in 2001. I matriculated college in 2002. I remember watching it climb in the Google search results, from the bottom of the first page to about 2 or 3 from the top. Honestly, I didn't think it was going to take off, but it kept showing up, and one day I what the hell, and jumped in. I'm not sure I believed the anyone can edit part of it until I became part of everyone. Have you ever been approached with an offer from a person or company to create or change a page to view more favorably or unfavorably? I've had a couple of people ask me to create articles for them. 1 or 2 have offered to pay me. Generally I will say no. I said yes once, but that was because I genuinely felt the subject deserved an article and would pass the notability test. Didn't take any money for it. I should add, someone I'd never heard of before. Do you do this for free? And if so, why? Yep. Wikipedia is a free community. It wouldn't feel right asking for money to edit. It's a hobby. One that has taken over my life a bit, but a hobby nonetheless. Will you be on my team for a pub quiz? Depends on what you're drinking. Do you set goals or time limits on yourself? Sometimes. Not often. I'll work on an article as long as it takes to get it right. Was there ever a point when you just sat back and asked yourself why you were putting this much time and effort in? I have my moments. I think everyone does. But then I look back on some of the articles I've written, especially on subjects that have had no online presence before, and it feels good. That wonderful feeling of having made something useful. That's what keeps me going, often as not. Besides, I know it sounds cheesy, but I've come to believe that we, collectively, are changing the world in the way the world thinks about knowledge. That's an amazing thing to think about, and it still blows my mind. Do you have a favorite article? Depends. I'll search stuff out in books, or online, wherever I can find something. Often I'll look something up online and that will start me down the path. Other times I'll see something in a book and run with it. Depends very much on the topic. How do you motivate yourself when someone rejected your edits? If someone reverts an edit I've made, I try not to sweat it. In the grand scheme of things it doesn't matter that much. I figure either A, it was worthwhile, in which case someone else will come along and redo it, or B, it wasn't, really, in which case no harm no foul. Otherwise I try not to let it get me down. It's just the internet. No sense in getting wound up about it. Would you consider yourself an edit addict? Yes, an edit-addicted autodidact. Dig it? Where's your primary source of research? Depends on the topic. Books, mostly, usually encyclopedias. I like starting with an encyclopedia entry, because it shows me that someone else has already deemed the topic notable. I'll turn to web sources, too, anything that helps me flesh a subject out. Although that's tricky for older subjects. Sometimes the only material is available in undigitized books, for instance. But I'll use anything, so long as it passes the smell test. As you may know, many institutions tell students that Wikipedia isn't a credible source, therefore you cannot use it. Do you believe that Wiki is credible, or do you think it still needs a lot of work to reach that point? It's credible. Studies show it to be more credible than many print sources. Also, I've found some real howlers of mistakes in print sources. Which is just to say, use a variety. But if I were teaching I wouldn't ban students from using Wikipedia. It's a potential source just like any other. Oh, the hero we all deserve. Good on you, mate. How did this all begin? How many hours a week do you typically spend editing Wiki? What else do you do with your time? You've personally inspired me to finally donate to Wikipedia. Thanks very much for the kind words. An incredible honor to hear. Though there's no need to be starstruck, I promise I don't bite. Why did you do it? Was it for the good of humanity, or were you just bored or something? Good of humanity sounds better, but really I was just bored. Besides, it gives me a chance to put all my esoteric knowledge to some good use. How much time do you spend correcting other pages? Most of it. Fixing typos, correcting syntax, italicization. Lack of italics is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. I intend to get back to article writing soon, though. Do you make use of archive.org, Gutenberg for inspiration or original sources? Amazon, mostly. Whatever's cheap. Wiki Project Medicine has done a lot to make medical information more accessible. I don't do much on that score myself, being a humanities geek. You don't want me doing medical stuff, trust me, but I'm glad to hear it's showing results. You say you've written subjects that had no online presence before. Can you give a few examples? How did it feel essentially introducing the world to them? Anytime. There's a great book on the subject from University of Illinois Press, the makers of The Sacred Harp. I've used it heavily for sourcing. It's about the only book I have found on the subject. Most of the information in those 4 articles comes from there. In the first Reddit thread I saw about you, someone referred to you as a modern day monk. I thought that was an interesting analogy. Does that strike a chord? Would you be open to an AI bot that copies your techniques? Say if you took photographs of your source material and the associated Wikipedia article, one may be able to automate your writing technique and Wikipediaizing of source material. What do you think about that? I think there's a great deal of room for bots on Wikipedia. Experiments have been made, and I think they've proven to be effective. I'd avoid one which makes any attempt to copy a human editor, but there are other things a bot can do in the realm of article creation. And I did want to be a Gregorian monk, but I never got the chance. Joke is not mine, but I will use it as often as I can, shamelessly. What's the weirdest, most wouldn't tell your parents article you've created or edited? Wit. I can't think of anything, really. My interests are pretty tame. First of all, thank you for what you do. Question. Ever tried out for a quiz show? No. I don't think I'd do well. I don't think fast enough under pressure, usually. Do you think you'll ever give up the hobby of editing wiki pages? Doubtful. I'll never say never, but at the moment I doubt it. I'm in the top 6,000 editors, with something like 25,000 edits. I edit here and there. I can't really wrap my head around someone with as many edits as you. Where do you find the time? Most evenings after work. I do a lot with AWB. For one thing. I've also been at it for 13 plus years, so I've had a lot of time to rack up edits. Also went through a spell of unemployment a few years ago that gave me more free time than I'd had liked. What's your favorite type of article to edit? Biographical stuff, humanities, mostly, art, music, history, smattering of politics now and again. Also lots of Virginia related stuff. What bias from other editors do you run into that makes things the most difficult for you? I wouldn't say that I run into conscious, day-to-day bias, exactly. The bias question is broader. I think it's not really present on the personal level so much as on a broader level. Systemic bias, especially, and that takes many forms. The gender gap gets is the most prominent, for good reason. Not even 18% of the biographical articles on the English Wikipedia are about women, and that's actually better than it was a few years ago. But there are other types, too. Geographic is also pervasive. But I wouldn't say any of it makes things difficult for me. I'm doing my thing, and as long as my articles are source, people generally seem to be okay with that. Do you ever put jokes in your edits just to see if people are paying attention? Heaven forfend. I sometimes put a gag in the edit summary, and will admit to the occasional witticism in Talkspace, but that's it. As someone who undoubtedly does a lot of reading and writing on a computer, what is your ergonomic situation? Do you feel any strain on your shoulders, arms, Wrists when typing? Eye strain? Do you have any tips to minimize? I can't say that I've noticed anything yet, but I'm young. I expect it to tell within a few years, to be honest. What subjects are you most interested in researching? Are there subjects you don't enjoy, but still research so that they will be represented on Wikipedia? To answer the second part first, not really. I tend to avoid hard sciences and things like that, because I don't really understand them. Otherwise, I enjoy history. I enjoy the humanities. Virginia history is especially fascinating to me, art history for obvious reasons. African topics sometimes, the South Pacific. I'm eclectic. How are you today? I'm well, thanks. You? How did Time find out about you? I suspect they just looked at the list of top contributors and found my profile. Nothing fancy. You related to Scott Pruitt? Not to my knowledge. If we are, it's way back in the family tree somewhere.